Welcome, everyone, to the Monday, August 11th edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, sponsored by Circus Sports. I'm Joe Bartel at JB Fantasy Sports on Twitter. Alongside me every Monday, Jake Letarski at RotoJake. We're going to be talking about a lot of preseason week one news, just overall recap of news. I was at the Fantasy Football Expo. We'll go over that a little bit, too. We got Mock Draft Monday as well here with a full-point PPR format. We're picking in my least favorite spot of the draft, either that 6 or 7 area, and we'll see what the mock draft gives us, what the strategies to do with that. What the experts at the Fantasy Expo also kind of gave us from a knowledge perspective as well too, and really trying to get us all prepared for tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on a Monday, Tuesday, I think I want to make sure I get the name correct. The NFFC Online Auction Championship, $150 entry, is kicking off on the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Jake and I, will be drafting at 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern, going over live our auction draft. And then, of course, we have the RotoWire Stake League auction draft, which will be the auction draft podcast the following week. So we're in the last, I would call it kind of like the compilation podcast of sorts, and then we are going to be off and running here moving forward. So excited to dive into everything with you here today, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for our auction tomorrow. It'll be my first auction of the year. Usually we do Stake League like really early, and then I've got a friend's one that is one of the last ones Labor Day weekend. But this is going to be the first one. And it is arguably going to be the toughest one because you've got guys that are putting real money at stake. And we know the NFFC's reputation. That's why we like to refer to their ADP because it's super useful. So we're going to put some RotoWire tools to the test and our new formula, see how that works out for us. And a lot of the players that we collectively are targeting or avoiding will come up here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a hodgepodge of sorts of a podcast today, but we'll kick things off with the preseason action that happened over the course of the weekend. Tyjae Spears really was the leader of the Fantasy Expo conversations that I heard of. Of the preseason games, at least of notable injuries, Tyjae Spears was carted off. It appeared to be a serious leg injury. He left on crutches, later identified as a high ankle sprain. We know Tyjae Spears to be already an injury-prone player as is, but in my mind, in the gatherings that I heard from the Fantasy Expo, this is going to dramatically, and I think dramatically being like at least a round or two higher, bump up the ADP value of Tony Pollard. So I'll pose the question to you first, Jake. So assuming Tyjae Spears does not play week one, let's assume that this kind of injury, given his injury history, does affect Tyjae Spears throughout the course of the season and makes Tony Pollard the more used back in the Titans' backfield. Does this significantly raise your ADP expectations and your interest in Tony Pollard this season?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the NFFC, and it hasn't actually – the Tyjae Spears hasn't changed a ton here, and I'm looking at Pollard now. He was 77 overall in drafts, and in drafts this weekend he's 75. So he's creeping up a little bit. I think that will continue to creep up. I'm actually really bummed because Tyjae Spears is one of my guys that I have been looking to target. The guy is a playmaker when he's out there on the field, when he's out there in open space. He's a huge, big play guy, and honestly, I think he's just better. And then if you look down the Titans depth chart, you have guys like Julius Chestnut, Khalil Mullings that are vying for RB2. So Pollard all of a sudden becomes very viable again. He's someone that I think I maybe had one share in my first 7 drafts. Wasn't super high on him. But, we always kind of say fantasy football is half skill, half opportunity. And now the opportunity is full on 80 grade, if you use a baseball term, full on any kind of marks here. Will this offense be great? Maybe, maybe not, probably not. But Tony Pollard is going to be one of the few bell cow backs for, I would guess, possibly the first 4 weeks of the season, maybe even longer. I mean, we don't know exactly a timeline for Tyjae Spears yet,
right?
But a high ankle sprain can be anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks, depending on the severity. And I don't know, the way he was carted off, and I was getting blown up about for my one league where I planned on keeping Tyjae Spears as a $2 player. I thought that was good value. I mean, there's not a ton of dollar value because around the 125 mark, he kind of gets down on the list, seeing anywhere from 1 to 4 projected value here. But honestly, I'm thinking I'm going to throw Tyjae Spears back now, unless we get some super optimistic return timetable. And the other guy I was debating was $10 Chris Godwin, which there's definitely some value here, but we don't know if he's going to make the start either. So it's the same kind of situation. What's probably going to happen is I'm going to go back to $22 T. Higgins, who's priced appropriately, I think, at that. You see T. Higgins around $21, $22 for standard redraft projections. Of course, our keeper league has a little bit of inflation. If everyone's keeping very good players, that should be $50 for
Right.
$10. There's more money to spend on the same talent pool. That's a whole strategy concept that we could do a whole show on if we wanted to. So I think realistically, someone like T. Higgins, especially after his finish in the fantasy football playoffs, would go to 30, 31 in a league like that. I mean, do you think I'm overreacting? I got to make this change on Tyjae Spears.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Sticking with the Tyjae Spears conversation, I mean, I've mentioned past podcasts. Ray Davis is a backup running back that I like to get. Trey Benson's a backup running back I like to get. I think Tyrone Tracy is typically in this Tyjae Spears sort of range at ADP. You could even go to the Cam Scatterbo range, which is a player I wasn't typically drafting, both the Giants guys. Tyjae Spears is going to fall down significantly in my mind. Already, I wasn't drafting Tyjae Spears because he can just never stay healthy. So the concept of, oh, this guy would fill in for Tony Pollard if he got hurt doesn't apply when Tyjae Spears himself gets hurt all the time. In my mind, there is going to be somebody else in basically every draft that likes Tyjae Spears more than me, or likes the concept of Tyjae Spears. So yes, I am about as big of a fade right now, given the injury history we've seen of his career. I think at this point for Tyjae Spears,
I'll still grab him as a $1 player at the end of a salary cap draft, or as RB 5 or 6 in deeper leagues. I'm fine with that, but I think you're right. Probably someone that's going to like him a little more. This was the year it's really supposed to all come together, and he's going to be, and he's not hamstrung, but you know what I mean, before it begins. So yeah, that to me, when I look through all the news of the weekend, that was the biggest actionable fantasy strategy news, that affects things. But there are a handful of other bits that we can get to.
We'll kick it over to the Rams. Matthew Stafford had an epidural procedure on his back that was reportedly supposed to help things. In fact, we were assuming Matthew Stafford would practice today, according to head coach Sean McVay. The veteran quarterback is not out in the Los Angeles practice field as of now. And this left a ton of conversation at the Fantasy Football Expo, again, that Canton, Ohio, that I was at this weekend, about what you do with not only Devontae Adams as a third-round ADP, but also Puka Nacua. At this point, I'm probably fading both, and I think that means Puka Nacua gets drafted after the A.J. Brown tier and possibly ahead of Lab McConkey or T. Higgins or Marvin Harrison. And Devontae Adams, which was pretty conventionally as like a late third, early third-round pick, I think at this point I would rather have the James Cooks of the world, the Amari Hamptons of the world, which we will see kind of play out in the Mock Draft Monday exercise we'll do on the RotoWire tools and app as well. So with Stafford theoretically still affected by this back injury and possibly could throughout the entire season, what is your level of concern for the two highly drafted Rams receivers?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not taking Puka Nacua in the first round any longer. That's out. I'm going another direction there, because there always been, the rumor mill was really hot on Stafford, like, he's not looking good, something's going to happen. But as far as actual facts being reported, people putting their name behind an actual report, it was always light. We know obviously herniated disc, that's pretty serious. Tony Romo had that very much almost ended his career towards the end there. And Stafford in a similar place here. And obviously getting an epidural is no joke. That's a pretty serious measure to take. And then all of a sudden he's going to be ready to practice, but now he's not again. And yeah, I don't like it. I think I'm limiting my risk there. Won't take Puka in the first round. I'm still slightly interested in Devontae Adams if he slips enough. I thought he was being a little underdrafted to begin with. I think he can have a good year if Stafford does give him, even a dozen games, far better circumstance than he did, with the Raiders. So, yeah, mildly interested in Adams if he comes at a discount, though. I'm not really taking him at current market price.
I don't imagine that's the case for most people drafting Rams receivers right now. We'll continue with the preseason injury notes. Jaden Reed was, I think, unexpectedly spotted with a boot during the Packers shellacking or getting shellacked by the Jets in the opening of the preseason game. Not happy with that. As a Packer fan, would love to see the Packers look somewhat competent, even though I know it's a exhibition game that does not matter. And Jaden Reed being injured isn't great. More importantly, the quotes from Matt LaFleur aren't as promising either. It was a lot of, we'll hope to get him back for week one sort of comments. And when you're already doing that with a player like Jaden Reed, who has been banged up and played through things throughout his career, but banged up often, it makes me a little bit nervous. The only, saving grace of that, again, shellacking at the hands of the Jets in week one for the Packers was Matthew Golden at least looked the part of a first-round receiver, and I don't know if that's because every other receiver looked like they didn't have hands at all or knew what football was, but if Jayden Reed is going to miss, let's just say week 1 or even a little bit longer, what is your expectation now? I think probably for Matthew Golden, who might be the biggest riser in that sort of scenario.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, there was just one target, so it was really hard to see the I'd like to see a little bit more of an extended sample size. It was the only pass Dobbs was able to complete here. He did target Romeo Dobbs, or I'm sorry, it was the only
Love
pass
was able
Love
to
complete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have Romeo Dobbs' player page in front of me because I want to talk about him. I got a little bit ahead of myself here. I'm still more inclined to look at Romeo Dobbs as a cheap DFS option in week 1 or week 2. That's kind of how I'm looking at this. I know Romeo Dobbs isn't really being drafted with much seriousness, but he is a guy that can move the chains and is someone in the red zone. And Golden's looking great. I hope he really progresses here. But I actually think the winner out of this is Dobbs, because remember Dontavian Wicks, he's also banged up. And, of course, if you've followed our show for any number of years, you know that we're more in tune with the Packers than anybody else right up here, not too far from Titletown. So, that's my gut with this situation, that Romeo Dobbs is being a little bit overlooked. Christian Watson obviously gone to start the season, possibly all of the season. And then, if Jayden Reed misses time, then you've got a rookie, and you've got Wicks who's banged up, and you've got Dobbs. And I think Dobbs is the secret beneficiary of that.
2 more injury notes here before we talk about the preseason games in week 1 themselves. And again, conversations that I heard at the Fantasy Football Expo and what people are sort of reacting to. So on the inverse of this, Khalil Shakir, who I have been drafting a lot of places, suffers the high ankle sprain a little bit earlier in training camp. It sounds like he will be ready for week 1. Brandon Ayuk from the 49ers has the knee injury that we had less information, I think, than we would have liked early into the drafting process. Likely not ready for week 1. Actually, probably a candidate for the PUP list at some point, missing those first 4 weeks of the season. All things considering, let's just say both are on the same ADP range, Jake. Brandon Ayuk, theoretically, if he's healthy, has the higher ceiling. But if we're assuming a 1, 2, possibly 4 game absence, would you rather draft Khalil Shakir in the sort of same ADP range that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, those are 2 players that I don't want to say fully on my do not draft list, but I have zero exposure to either, and I'm not particularly interested in either of them. We mentioned being a Keon Coleman show early on in the year, and I think that will eventually come to fruition there. So, again, I guess taking him at cost is maybe fine, but I'm not jumping all over it. I'm not taking it aggressively, and maybe I'll pay for overlooking these guys a little bit, but just convoluted target situations, target distribution for both of these teams. Obviously, Shakir is supposed to be wide receiver 1, but he's never really performed like a wide receiver 1 in the past. Ayuk, of course, is coming off that injury, and there's so many targets to go around in San Francisco. So I'm below the field at current market price, if you want to put it that way.
We might have to have a fight about Khalil Shakir on the live stream of the NFFC auction draft tomorrow, again at 9 p.m. Eastern for those on the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Again, if you're listening to this on Monday, we'll have it that Tuesday, because if it's like a $4 situation or a $5 situation as our wide receiver 5, I might push it up just a bit more.
That's cool.
I mean, this is going to be, and I continue to say this, and I think it's massively true. If you are doing your drafts over the next week or so, whether it be Jordan Addison, Khalil Shakir, we can talk about Chris Godwin as well too, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, there's at least 4 or 5 guys that have all kind of congregated to the same ADP range that if things work out the way that we all anticipate or the information we're getting right now, there's at least 3 that end up being significant, like 2 to 3 round ADP difference makers if you are drafting at the end of August when theoretically all of this is clear. The opportunity to capitalize on these ADPs, again, of that 5 mentioned, there's probably a little bit more as well too, I think is very significant. And if I have to pound the table, possibly literally for Khalil Shakir come tomorrow during our auction draft, I will do it, because I want that from a full point PPR perspective.
Yeah, and in the end, I'm okay with something like that, because if there is value there, and also the fact that I don't think I have any shares yet, I might as well get one just in case I'm way wrong.
Yeah, well, especially if I'm the one managing the league too, Jake. You could do all the fun stuff with the
so
draft.
For, again, guys like us that get a dozen plus leagues and creep up on 20 over the course of a year, there is some sort of risk assessment, portfolio management factor, and I'm happy to get that out of the way here.
Let's talk about some of the preseason action and some of, I think, the takeaways, or at least the discussions that happened at the Fantasy Football Expo. But first, a word from our sponsors, Circa Sports. Circa Million and Circa Survivor are back with a massive $21 million in guaranteed prizes. You have the Circa Million, where you pick 5 games against the spread each week, 18 weeks of action with 126 ways to win, $1 million for the winner, and $6 million guaranteed. I believe Nick and Jeff over the weekend participated in that, or at least talked about it over their course of the Circa stuff. And of course, Circa Survivor, 1 pick each week, no point spread, just last the longest to win at least $15 million guaranteed in prizes for Circa Survivor. Enter Nevada, play from anywhere, 21 million guaranteed. Visit circusports.com for details. And how about this? If you want to enter the greatest pro football contest in the world, the Circa Million Circa Survivor contest in Nevada, they offer 21 million like we talked about. But Vegas Football Proxy can help you play in these awesome contests. Vegas Football Proxy is based in Las Vegas and offers proxy services for customers all over the country. Sign up at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas and then play from anywhere with Vegas Football Proxy. The folks at VFP are experienced professionals. They're 100% reliable and provide outstanding customer service. Their submission process is easy to use, which is definitely important, and ensures accurate and timely pick submissions. Tom Carroll and his team at VFP have been serving contest players for more than a decade and have helped countless clients achieve their dreams from just being able to compete in a Vegas contest all the way to winning Circa Survivor. If you want to take a shot at 21 million in prizes, visit vegasfootballproxy.com and /ROTO pod for more details. All right. Again, I keep talking about the Fantasy Football Expo. I, along with 4 other RotoWire members, were at Canton, Ohio from Thursday through Sunday. It was an awesome time. We actually got to, with a bunch of other experts, probably some like 70 or 80. We're all kind of crammed into this one restaurant. Of course, drinks were plenty. Jake, you'd have thrived in this scenario. I'll just say it that way. You would have been cleaning up at the Fantasy Expo, as many would, enjoying their time there. The prime game on TV was the Browns one, of watching what Shedeur Sanders was doing during the first day. And obviously, being in Canton, Ohio, a bunch of people being Browns fans as well too. There was a lot of attention to Shedeur Sanders as somebody that's been entering this sort of competition, if you want to call it that, for the Browns quarterback situation. As a pessimist to Shedeur Sanders, I have to begrudgingly admit, did okay. There was at least 4 or 5 times where he ran about 20 yards too far, and I have to wonder, against first-string starting teams, starting defenses, will that sort of stick fly? But if you were under the impression Shedeur Sanders was not going to play this year, which I don't think many were, that would have been erased, I thought. If there's one takeaway, is that Shedeur Sanders is going to start at least one game for the Browns this year, because I thought there was enough talent that we saw.
Yeah, let me jump on the hype train. Give him the keys week 1. What do you have to lose, Browns? Like, he's not going to learn, outside of some defensive reading capabilities, he's not going to learn much watching Joe Flacco play. It's completely different styles of quarterback play. I don't know. Give him the keys, and if it doesn't work out, then you have another crack at it next year. But I'd let it fly, and I think I grabbed Shedeur in Fishbowl actually super late, and I like it.
So there's a reason why you're pushing this agenda, Jake? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my one and only share, because that's the only format that goes enough rounds where you'd actually think about it, right? But
right.
But yeah, I just let him have the keys. I mean, I know it was the Panthers. I know it was a lot of second stringers out there. I just think you should give him a shot. What do you have to lose?
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that a 5th-round quarterback could learn something from a veteran Super Bowl winner in Joe Flacco, but it does not seem like Shedeur Sanders is that type of person who would actually learn from him. So by default, Jake, you're right. If he's going to be kind of a mental case in that regard, why not just go ahead and throw him out there? I think it's very clear that Dylan Gabriel, who did not play in this contest, is not in position for it. It really does feel like Flacco or Shedeur Sanders. Now,
and we know what you're getting from Kenny Pickett. Like, that hasn't even factored in my mind.
And he's also been injured too. We got 20 days yet or so until that really does matter, or something's kind of decided. But I still think Joe Flacco at least starts the first month of the season. If this is like Jacoby Brissett and Drake May last year with the Patriots, I wouldn't be surprised. But this was a good enough showing for Shedeur Sanders in week 1 for the Browns. Another good showing was the 102-yard kick return touchdown from Travion Henderson to open the game for the Patriots. And then a really good, just a check down breakthrough for 12 yards. Yep. Just the flashing of explosiveness. Now, I've made the
18-yard run in there too. Basically, every time he touched the ball, something happened. It's like reminds you a little bit of a rookie David Johnson when he was returning kicks.
Oh, so not what Bill Simmons said, better than Jahmyr Gibbs in his podcast earlier today. Yeah.
Okay, that's a little bit taking it over the top. I did not listen to that one.
Well, he's a Patriots fan, so that would happen. But I have liked Travion Henderson. I like Travion Henderson the most of all these players. entering the draft process. I thought this was the worst landing spot for him. We had heard about Trayvon Henderson being a really good pass blocker. I thought there were Gibbs-like comparisons from Ohio State. And of course, seeing Gibbs have to split time, I think, and I still think with Ramondre Stevenson tempers my expectations a little bit, but maybe that's for the better, right? Because if it is a Jahmyr Gibbs situation, you have David Montgomery that shoulders a lot of the workload and then has Jahmyr Gibbs being in a spot to thrive. Again, I don't think Henderson does that quite yet, but Josh McDaniel, anytime he has been an OC or a head coach from an offense perspective, has made the pass catching running back be a super relevant thing. So I want more shares of Trayvon Henderson. I have basically zero. And maybe this is a hint for the auction draft tomorrow that we'll have in the NFFC. But I think it's time to kind of start getting some more Trayvon Henderson.
Yeah, I worry that in an auction format, he might get a little bit too much steam, and you're spending too much on potential. But we'll wait and see. Also, by the way, Ramondre Stevenson he carried the ball 7 times in that preseason opener, and it looks like he came out with that with some kind of injury. Didn't practice Sunday. Has not been seen in practice today. Still undisclosed. We have no idea what that is, but just another thing to watch for your Henderson hype train.
Other bits of news, and I guess this would matter from you were watching this game for this reason, but Travis Hunter played both ways, caught 2 passes. It was Brian Thomas that got absolutely leveled out because Lawrence threw a Peyton Manning get schmucked ball, not Travis Hunter. But I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of conversation post Fantasy Football Expo and really divisive, as you'd imagine. Where are you drafting Travis Hunter? What do you have the expectations for? A lot of smart people, I thought, on both sides of it. But from week 1 perspective, I don't know if there's a whole lot of takeaways from a preseason part.
I can do like a couple of quick hitters, just some notes. We don't need to talk about all these guys, but I'll just run through some pretty fast in case you were doing something else this weekend or we're at the Great Taste of the Midwest Beer Festival here, and didn't quite take in as much preseason football as possible here. But just some quick hitters. RJ Harvey from the Broncos. I know you like him. 67% snap rate with the first teamers. Yards per carry, not great, but he didn't have a whole lot of room to run. But just that use is encouraging. Our boy Blake Corum scored twice, or was our boy last year. That didn't quite work out, but maybe we got something there. Bengals finally actually playing guys in the preseason. Their starters are in midseason form. Chase Brown had 8 touches for 48 yards. Jamar Chase caught 4 targets for 71 yards, 2 touchdowns on 2 drives for Burrow. Maybe they'll be ready for week 1 this year. Former Packer A.J. Dillon, 54 total yards, though he did work behind Will Shipley, which I think is notable there. You don't get any steam from that. Keaton Mitchell, who I've always thought was good and explosive, he had 9 carries for 68 yards and a score. He's interesting, but that was only because Derrick Henry and Justice Hill were resting here. Another kind of backup situation, Sean Tucker with Tampa Bay, entered about halfway through the first quarter, ended up running 13 times for 50 yards and a score, though he might have emerged with a possible groin injury. The Saints' hot quarterback competition. Spencer Rattler ran with the ones in the first preseason game. He went 7 for 11 for 53 yards, lost a fumble. Tyler Shaw got a little more work, 15 for 22, 165, and a touchdown, but also an interception. That one is going to be an actual preseason job competition, maybe worth watching for the 2 quarterback leagues here. We'll see how that goes. That could very well not be decided for a few more weeks, but it is tight. And that is all I've got for notes.
Yeah, you said Tyler Shuck, and I am saying that only because you wouldn't guess it. Shough. That's not how you'd say Shuck, but Tyler Shuck, who is the 2nd-round pick for the Saints this year, threw a pick 6. Comes back on the next drive and has like a 75-yard touchdown pass, and it looked good. Shuck is not at all Justin Herbert, but the way in which the ball zipped out of the hand, right in as like dropping the breadbasket, so to speak, with the touchdown pass too. It was impressive. So too was the pick 6 that I think was a little bit due to the bad route running from the receiver, and the Chargers guy jumped it pretty well. But very curious as a guy that's drafting a lot of Chris Olave, and I saw, Jake, a lot of smart people drafting Chris Olave as well, not just myself, at the Fantasy Expo going there too. So whoever wins that competition, I really hope Olave and Rashid Shaheed get to benefit a little bit. We are going to dive into Mock Draft Monday here, go over a pick from either the 6 or 7 spot. It's going to be dealer's choice with Jake as he gets that set up. But while we are waiting, we're going to get a word from our sponsors, Blue Wire. If you're watching live here, we're going to be coming back momentarily. All right, we're back again, getting ready for Mock Draft Monday here. We are trying to target this from a full-point PPR perspective. And I think at this point, and I was shocked with how many people seem to agree with this conversation at the Fantasy Football Expo. But full point PPR really does feel like the standard. And people who are at least playing half point PPR, you're playing along or trying your best. But the 0 points per reception leagues that maybe you some dinosaurs are still playing in, that is a gone. I don't think that's going to be happening much more, given the conversations that I was hearing at the Fantasy Football Expo. The full point PPR does feel like the standard that we are seeming to have. So, Jake, talk us through what you're going to do here from a setup perspective, and then kind of get things underway for the mock draft.
Yeah, super easy to go to the RotoWire Mock Draft Simulator. It's a fantastic tool to get moving here. I'm just changing a couple of the default settings to kind of get there. We're going to draft out of the 7 spot today. This is a spot that neither of us particularly like. We've talked about this in our previous show about where we want to be in the drafts. So we're going to put ourselves to the test, and maybe let's draft a kicker and defense at the end here so we can see if we
want that A plus
grade. We want that A plus from the RotoWire grader here. A lot of people we're posting mock draft Monday results last week. We're going to do the same here. I'll make sure to capture our results here towards the end and the roster here. But again, so selecting your team 7, half PPR, full PPR is what we're going to do, and I'm going to make it so it's 3 wide receivers here. And I know last week we got to get a little bit lucky with who fell to us at our pick, but let's see how realistic it gets going here.
That'll happen. I emceed the Kings Classic redraft league, and then we also kicked off like the first hour of the auction draft as well too at the Kings Classic at the Fantasy Football Expo. And our own Jim Coventry, I thought, got the absolute steal of the entire auction draft. Lamar Jackson went for 23, Josh Allen went for 23, Joe Burrow went for 21, and Jim somehow got Jalen Hurts for $17. Now, again, we'll talk about this on the live stream tomorrow on the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Tuesday, there are still 8 spots open if you want to draft with Jake and I on the RotoWire online auction championship again at 9 p.m. Eastern for tomorrow. But there is a bit of gamesmanship in the way you play, and I know while our mock draft tool might have some AC factor in there, the alcohol consumed with the variance in it, I don't think that room did. So that Jim was able to get that steal of Jalen Hurts, I thought was very fascinating. So, all right, we're at pick 7 here.
Okay, we're at pick 7. You can see the previous picks here. This was actually very realistic and reflective of how I think is going to happen. Jamar Chase went lower than he should have, but he's going in the top 4. He's not going to be on the board. Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jefferson Chase, CeeDee Lamb are all off the board, as is Jahmyr Gibbs. Now it's the 7th pick for us, and looking at these guys, I think these 3 guys, Brian Thomas, Derrick Henry, Malik Neighbors, are probably more first round guys. Puka Nacua we discussed. For me, I think the home run is Amon-Ra St. Brown in this spot, but I have seen some Ashton Genty talk here too. Where are you leaning on this one?
So I kind of want to go in a full point PPR, especially if we're doing the mock draft. I encourage everyone to go ahead and grapple with this idea. If you have a mid-round pick or a late-round pick, what happens if you have Christian McCaffrey? To what degree do you need to have your running back depth chart be solidified after McCaffrey to feel like you have a good draft? So while I think St. Brown is a totally fine play, if I'm the one making this today, it would probably be between St. Brown or Brian Thomas. I think for this exercise, I would really like in a full point PPR format to try Christian McCaffrey, and then to sort of answer the question for you and I, Jake, how many running backs we need to have before I actually feel like, okay, I'm safe in the event that Christian McCaffrey gets injured again.
So you're saying McCaffrey over Genty in full PPR?
Correct. Yep.
So what I'm saying here is this feature 73% chance to be drafted before the next pick. You don't maybe want to risk it and see if we can and see if we can.
I think there is a 100% chance in a regular draft that he would be drafted. So I want to do this McCaffrey pick here and see what happens afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that. And again, I just want to make a note on Ashton Genty. I commented this in the RotoWire Twitter thread today. I'm a little bit worried. He's unproven. That O-line looks bad. That team is bad. He'll get all the volume in the world, and he has skills that he showed off against all these Mountain West defenses. But I don't have any shares yet, and I'm probably not going to until the last draft I do of the season. That's a friends and family draft where I try to fade myself and get the guys that I don't have anything. But I'm starting to worry a little bit about Genty. If I were personally doing – we'll humor you. I'm going to do the McCaffrey pick. If I were personally doing this draft right now with these results, I would be taking Amon-Ra St. Brown because PPR, That guy is a PPR machine.
We're going to have another fight tomorrow. Everyone needs to tune in. Jake and I are going to be throwing virtual fisticuffs because I actually am totally fine with Genty, and I will gladly take the discount if somebody's going to give me that. Like my guy, Jim Coventry says, volume is king. Genty is going to get every single offensive touch out of the backfield. Don't talk about Raheem Mostert or any of the baloney that's there in Las Vegas. By default, if Ashton Genty is even like the rookie Bijan Robinson, that was running back 9, and you're drafting Genty as like running back 6 or 7. It's okay that you're still drafting somebody with a floor, because that floor is, my gosh, it's so high.
I'm more worried you end up with a Chuba Hubbard from last year's situation where obviously Genty's a much better talented back, but you've got pretty much the RB bell cow on a terrible team. You know, Hubbard obviously exceeded expectations and was a fantasy.
Got 1,400 rushing yards. Like I would gladly take that for Genty's perspective.
Yeah, I suppose. But I from the 7th pick overall. Anyway, we can move on. Genty ended up falling to the 12th turn here. Someone jumped in, took Brock Bowers very quickly. The computer, Puka, Derrick Henry in full PPR might be a little questionable here. But a lot of our guys are off the board. So our Thomas and Neighbors, guys we were discussing, Drake London went before us here. So we're in a situation here where do we want to keep pushing our running back agenda and go Josh Jacobs? Is Tyreek Hill interesting enough? For me, it's between A.J. Brown and Josh Jacobs here coming back. But I'm starting to see very much why you do not like the 10th spot. Or would you consider Jonathan Taylor over Josh Jacobs? It's a tight race for me.
Yeah, the number 7 spot, which I agree with you on this one. Like this is exactly why. Now I would feel very fortunate if AJ Brown fell to me, but I'll also be really pissed off if Drake London was the pick before, because that's the guy I'd love to have. We're gonna take AJ Brown here, and I think I'll let you kind of make more of the decisions right off. But this is a conventional start, and I think especially if you're trying to build around a Christian McCaffrey home run sort of roster, you then want to have a bit more of a safety net with it. So AJ Brown makes a lot of sense to me, and I think would be a very easy.
And if it were up for me, I know you kind of made this one, but AJ Brown would have been my pick too there. Want to get a receiver here to go with this. Now we're in another interesting spot here. McLaurin, if these Washington Commander colors even apply a couple weeks
from now.
Marvin Harrison.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good
Marvin
point.
Harrison, we kind of talked about one of our guys that were lower on in the past. Devontae Adams has the quarterback situation. Looking through these guys, I think it's time to take a jet. What say you?
I absolutely agree. I'm curious as to which position you want. I definitely have a preferred target, but it might differ.
I think we want to build up the running back room.
Okay.
Going with your thing, but I could be talking to Garrett Wilson here.
So I would prefer Garrett Wilson in a full point PPR form. Where you look at the receivers around this range, JSN, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams are all on the board. Marvin Harrison, I think, is also on the board as well too. The running backs that
foundational receiver, and then load up on pass catching upside later on in the draft.
The running backs that typically come back, whether it be James Cook, Amari Hampton, probably not so much anymore. I don't mind Alvin Kamara to a certain extent. Like there's a lot of other running back opportunities, but now you look at the way the board actually played out. This would be the exact reason why you don't take Garrett Wilson, because the CPU, and I think we've seen this in sharper leagues, has a run at the back end of running backs. Well, Amari Hampton, Alvin Kamara, I think there's at least one earlier in that Terry McLaurin pick right before Jake. So 3 running backs in the past 5 picks go off the board, including Breece Hall and including James Cook as well too. So makes things much more tricky than you'd want with the Christian McCaffrey start to the first round.
Yeah, so now we are in a tough spot. I don't love James Conner or Chuba Hubbard at this spot, to be honest. I think it's too early for Burrow still.
George Kittle also went off the board, which conventionally I think would be a nice value.
Here's what I'm thinking about.
Okay, if we're trying to get the A+ value, TreVeyon Henderson probably is way earlier than the CPU might say. But again, if it's James Conner, Chuba Hubbard, or TreVeyon Henderson in a full point PPR league, I don't necessarily mind that. And Jake's got the ADP right now pulled up at the NFC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I just wanted to reference the ADP here to see how much of a reach TreVeyon Henderson would be. As you can see from the NFFC site, this is just drafts from this weekend, August 8th through today. And let's see, who are the other guys that we're looking at? TreVeyon
Chuba Hubbard and James Conner would also be there too.
James Conner. So despite what the general consensus is, it's not a reach to take TreVeyon Henderson here.
Yep, I think let's go ahead and do it then. Let's take TreVeyon Henderson.
All right, so moving on. And I also like doing this exercise for Mock Draft Monday because you can see a little bit what I am doing on my screen, where my mind goes to what I'm going to go look up in this situation here. But now we're coming back, and we got Pickens, we got Jameson Williams, Ted McMillan, Xavier Worthy. It's telling us to go receiver here.
Can you show me the running backs that are around this spot? Because I think this would be one of the keys that if you're taking Christian McCaffrey early and you don't end up trying to get a double tap like Josh Jacobs or Breece Hall right away, this might be the zone in which you can build depth. And if you look at the tier of running backs, RJ Harvey on the board right now, we saw David Montgomery on the board, DeAndre Swift. Aaron Jones is really a big fall off for me. Like I think of those three, Aaron Jones and even Tony Pollard and Isaiah Pacheco, I would rather have over Aaron Jones too. So this feels like the scenario where I would build a little bit of the running back position and the depth to withstand in the case of McCaffrey getting injured. But I'll kind of defer to you, Jake. I called the first two picks. So what do you think?
Yeah, to me, it's between Harvey, who I think is going to get a lot of opportunity, or what do I have here? It's not letting me. There we go. Tony Pollard is becoming interesting here. But I think if I were actually interested in Pollard, we'd probably get him for the next spot. So you want to keep building running backs and go Harvey here because maybe Jameson Williams, but I don't necessarily love any of these guys a ton at this very spot here. So what are you thinking? Do you agree with Harvey?
I would take Harvey for sure.
Let's get it going. Maybe Jameson Williams will stick to us.
Oh, let's hope. Let's get it.
That make things interesting here. None of all these quarterbacks are the same to me. We can come back and get one another time. I'm not thinking about quarterbacks. Mark Andrews is interesting, but I'd take the 50-50 chance. Otherwise, we'll just stab tight ends later.
This is a mock draft, but I'm going to just say this, Jake. I'm annoyed that I think 4 of the 6 rounds, if this was my draft, I would have been irate that I gotten sniped on Drake London, Chris Olave, George Kittle. It would have been like the last 3 or 4 picks, my preferred guy went right before. So even in a mock draft scenario, I'm pissed off.
Intelligence this year, and this is one where you're starting to see it. Sometimes you get a random thing pop up, like our show last week, but this time, yes, we get Chris Olave. Was taken right before us, and I guess
Hawkinson would have been I would have rather had over RJ Harvey too. So it's just crazy that this has continued to happen again. Why I don't really like either that 6 or 7 pick range as well. So the upside.
Real quick, I want to see if we got bye week controversies.
Oh yeah,
both of our running backs have 14. But of course, you can place when setting up your draft plan. You can place bye week controversy. If this is important to you, you can put it at the top of the list. If it's not, you can put it at the bottom of the list. I'm just going to look at this and say, hey, this is a future Jake and Joe problem. We're going to be set for at least the first 8 weeks of the season.
And we have RJ Harvey to also cover that too.
Yes.
I mean,
and our whole roster composition, and if you listen to us on the waiver wire show, are going to be different here. But anyway, Jameson Williams, that's our choice.
Sounds good. Yeah. And others around that range would have been Jacoby Myers. We'll see if he ends up coming back in a full point PPR league. He does. And that's an easy call. Because I do think post Ben Johnson, I'm not worried about St. Brown. I'm really not even worried about the running game as well, too. But I do think Jameson Williams loses some opportunities, loses some of the explosive opportunities in this mix. And I would want a safe receiver. If it's not Calvin Ridley, Jacoby Myers feels like that's the correct call.
Taking a little safety pick. Okay, now we're already up to round 8 here. I want to at least take a peek at the quarterbacks and tight ends, just in case here. There's anyone that is the last of a tier we can go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good call as well.
I'm starting to think – I was actually thinking about Kyler Murray, maybe the last one. But do you think we can wait another round on quarterbacks and instead grab one of these 3 right here?
So if I'm reading this correctly off the screen, it says about a 27% chance that Kyler Murray does go off the board with our next pick. Did I see that? Or 77% chance.
77%.
So it's 27 for Brock Purdy. So quick go to the tight ends, but I don't mind Kyler Murray necessarily, especially in this scenario. We're doing a bit more of the unique build aspect. And I don't normally take Christian McCaffrey. I probably don't take Kyler Murray as well too. But Jake, how about this? I want to make sure we get a question up. How about you make Kyler Murray the selection because the tight ends aren't all that attractive? Artie asks, good afternoon. I just received a trade for my 1-1 in a 12-man Dynasty Superflex League. Josh Jacobs, 2-3 and an early 2026. Your thoughts, Jake? And again, Ashton Genty presumably is the 1-1. I have seen that very often, even in Superflex format. So
Superflex, you don't give any bearing to Cam Ward or anything like that?
No, not in Superflex. In our Superflex draft that we did, Cam Ward fell to 5. I would imagine that would be the case for like the 3 to 5 range would be Genty, Omarion Hampton, and then you sort of get the preference of it's Ward or McMillan or Travis Hunter in that range. So I would consider it if that early 2026, like we could comfortably say it would be, and like an early first round pick as well too, but Jacobs is near the end of this as well. Like I think I would throw out 1-1 and say, can anyone beat this? I would literally say into my friends and family chat or whatever else, can someone beat this offer? I will make a move if somebody can beat this offer. Is that an appropriate thing to do in these sort of settings and situations?
Oh yeah, of course. And if you're thinking about any trade, it doesn't hurt to shop around the offer entirely here. I honestly, this taking a little off guard by this question. I'd have to pull up some of my dynasty draft results to see what 2.3 looks like. If there's anyone we like here, like is Jaden Higgins falling that far?
Jaden Higgins would, Matthew Golden, and probably one of the tight ends. That would be one of those. That would be what would happen at 2-3. It's possible because Jackson Dart becomes that equation. It's possible that you have all three of those gone. That's the worst case scenario, but that is right at the Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, Jackson Dart range.
Also, at 1.1, you have to assume you're rebuilding a little bit to some degree. Mm-hmm. And generally in Dynasty, even Superflex, the running backs are the last step of the puzzle. So 1.1 is Ashton Genty for you're assuming at least a decent 5-6 year window of productivity. But running back should be your last piece. Necessarily. So wouldn't you want more usable pieces that would all turn into starters? I think, I think I'd give up 1.1 in this scenario. I think that's enough to pry it from me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Let's continue on with Mock Draft Monday here on the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Again, a reminder to folks, Jake and I will be back on this stream on YouTube in 24 hours, as we'll be doing our NFFC online auction championship at 9 p.m. Eastern. There are 8 spots still available, $150 entry, $15,000 grand prize if you finish first among the competition itself. If nothing else, please tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern because Jake and I will be arguing for about an hour and a half, if not 2 hours, about players we like and dislike. It was, I think, one of the most viewed live draft streams of all of RotoWire last year, Jake, and I am encouraging everyone and kind of demanding at this point that we exceed that number last year. It was a lot of fun to do that.
Absolutely. And I definitely want you to be posting the link both to enter the contest if you want to actually come in and draft with us, and as well we'll do something to view that as well. So definitely stay tuned to both of our Twitter accounts at JB Fantasy Sports, at Roto Jake. We'll definitely get the word out here in the next 24 hours so you know where to go. And thanks for the question, Artie, as well. So back to the mock draft here. What are we thinking? Is it Tucker Kraft time, or do we bolster any of our other positions? Looking at our current roster right now, we have our quarterback. We've got 3 running backs. We've got 3 receivers. We even got a bench receiver.
Yeah, 4 receivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we even got a bench receiver that maybe early on, as Harvey finds his bearings, Jacoby Myers might get some of those starts in our lineup, depending on how matchups are looking here. So we eventually need a tight end. I think round 9 is still too early to venture into Brandon Aubrey territory here, but maybe in a couple. What are we thinking? Do any of these tight ends that is our main area of need?
There'd be a certain person that would say, oh, J.K. Dobbins on the board, partner that for the Broncos backfield altogether. I think Harvey is far more lucrative of that. And in this exercise, I think we'll have to likely get Chris McCaffrey's backup at some point. I don't want to couple another one together. If Emeka Egbuka is still available in the 9th round at this point, I'm glad you scrolled a little bit further. That's probably the right call. Emeka Egbuka is just shooting up draft boards right now. I think if you look at the NFFC ADP, we're talking about more like a 7th or 8th round selection, not back into the 9th round. So Emeka Egbuka is the right call, and also means we don't need to take any more receivers probably for the majority of the rest of this draft.
Mm-hmm. And look at that. Tucker Kraft still ended up in ours, as did ended Colston Loveland. So these numbers are largely based on ADP. We are at pick 120, and Loveland is 106 ADP based on sleeper leagues is what we use here. I've never really been confronted with the Loveland versus Kraft dilemma here. You got a little bit of safety with Kraft, a little bit of floor, and then a bit of upside with Loveland. He looked like he did catch a pass in the preseason game, so he's getting involved. working with the ones. Where do you stand on this? I just want to hear your take.
This one's an easy call, in my opinion. I'll take Tucker Kraft every time. This is not the Packer homer in me. In fact, I think Luke Musgrave is more involved than people think in this passing group right away. I don't believe Colston Loveland with Cole Kmet there, with DJ Moore there, with Roma Dunze there, with an offense that we know Ben Johnson wants to be run-oriented. I don't think Colston Loveland really through November is going to be a rosterable guy that you can go ahead and start. So to me, it's Tucker Kraft. Now, there'll be other people that'll say Jake Ferguson. Our guy Jim Coventry drafted, I think, Jake Ferguson tight end 9 in both of the auction and redraft league that they did at the Kings Classic at the Fantasy Expo this weekend. I don't know if I subscribe to that necessarily. I do think that if it presented with Tucker Kraft or Jake Ferguson, it's a, hey, both these guys have a comfortable floor, but then if we're differentiating, one's got a higher ceiling.
No love for Dalton Kincaid. We've talked a lot about the Bills receiver room and how there needs to be some. If Josh Allen really is QB2, and I know the rushing helps that, somebody's got to catch balls, and you got some upside here. But it's still. It
will not be me. It will not be me, Jake. I am relatively convinced that Dalton Kincaid is not going to be a factor at all throughout this offense this year. So no, I'm not interested.
Ooh, I was hoping Keon Coleman would stick around here. Again, looking at our roster here, we have 3 running backs. We've got
5 receivers. It's probably time to go back to running back.
It's probably time to go back to running back. But so let's take a look here. We actually went all the way in this. I got to move it back over to the current pick.
Well, can you go to the running back position while you do that? Because that'll take a little bit of time, and I could talk about these. So this is the one downside of choosing to wait. And again, if we were trying to appropriately build around Christian McCaffrey, that you have Rashad White, Jaden Blue, Ray Davis, Trey Benson as your running back 4 options. Conventionally, I'm totally fine with both Ray Davis and Trey Benson in the event that you feel really good about your 3 running backs. We do, for the most part, feel good about those first 2. It's the McCaffrey issue that I think kind of gets pointed out. So whether it be Ray Davis or Trey Benson, that's absolutely the duo that I want to pick from and have roster rates from. Notable.
I've been a huge Jaden Blue guy, but the injury, I'm not too worried about that yet, but he's out of the discussion for you?
He is completely out of the discussion. He should not be near anyone's roster. But notably,
ADP-wise, he's got a big I mean, he's ahead of 30 spots on these guys.
Correct. I was going to say that neither Ray Davis nor Trey Benson are in range to be drafted. You have guys like Travis Etienne that are already gone, which would be normally considering. So this could be the spot that if you want to double tap tight end, we just took Tucker Kraft before, or if you wanted to end up getting a second quarterback as well to build around Kyler Murray, that's conventionally what I would choose to do because we do not need more receivers.
Okay, I know your guy Justin Fields is up on the board. Do you ever taking him over Dak Prescott?
So Fields and Kyler Murray are much in the same way. I think Murray gives you more of the safer floor. I do think Dak Prescott's interesting. Like I don't mind that idea, but I almost think
he'll almost certainly be gone.
Right. I think you just take Dak Prescott and you're saying, okay, one of those 2 between Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott is going to get you top 8 quarterback production most every week.
All right, that's fair.
Zooming through here, the mock draft again, mock draft Monday, nearing the end of it I think it's what we discovered. 16 rounds is what's normally on this. 18 rounds. What did you have it set for again?
Yeah, let's look at the draft board real quick. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks remaining. We want to grab a kicker defense to get a good grade here. The running back situation, if Ray Davis is still around, we talked about him last time.
Yep, Ray Davis and Trey Benson are both there. Can you go to the tight ends real quick? Because that was one of the other spots.
Yeah, the tight ends fell off the board. Unfortunately, Ferguson, who we kind of
zapped up,
and Kyle Pitts as well. At this point, I don't care for the tight ends in this. I mean, Brendan Strange is interesting,
right?
But also we can wait on him, or we can just get your guy Mason Taylor.
I think we'll wait and get Mason Taylor at the end. But let's go to this. Of Trey Benson and Ray Davis, which one would you want to draft more?
This is going to be Ray Davis for me.
Let's do it. Let's do it then. Yep. And then while we're waiting,
starting to go off as you know,
we're waiting for the mock draft to kind of get situated, can you show people watching along or listening along how to actually favorite a player? Because if we have Christian McCaffrey, we want to make sure we're going to have Isaac Guerrero as well too. So is there a way to go ahead? Well, actually, never mind, Jake. I think he just went off the board.
You do that when making your draft plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Building your draft plan, which we do a full tutorial video on, and that's where you set targets and you'll be able to. So I'll just give a quick tour of this best available by position. And then likely gone before your next pick. This is kind of ADP heavy. Highest upside, safest players by position using our ceiling and floor projections, and best available rookies. But you will have your targets as an option here if you do enter them ahead of time.
And I saw once again for I think the sixth time in this mock draft, we got sniped one pick before Garendo goes off the board. So
Yep.
that doesn't even matter. This would be a busted draft in my mind. Like if I entered with Christian McCaffrey and did not get Isaac Garendo as part of this, we have failed. So now this is exactly why you do the mock drafts. We have liked Ray Davis and Trey Benson more. We then risk the scenario where he goes off the board. Boom, it happens, and we're in a much tougher spot now.
Yep, and we might be at the point here where we'll need to grab a kicker and a defense. We'll think in real life, no, but just for the computers taking kickers and defenses, in my opinion, a little early. But honestly, most common leagues are taking kickers and defenses around this time here. But any of these recommendations stand out for you here?
Yeah, I would probably end up going Trey Benson, making sure I get both those running backs then, and then just sort of moving on and say, all right, I got that position locked up. Likely Mason Taylor is our last pick or one of our last picks. So we can go kicker or defense here, Jake. I'm very curious if you just take the top of the ADP board, what that ends up giving you draft-wise. I really have zero preference.
Bengals have a good offense. I'll grab
Perfect. That sounds good to me. We'll take McPherson. I think we just go back with defense right away as well, too.
Because we were assuming Mason Taylor is going to be here, or do we not risk it and take Mason Taylor right now?
You know what? Let's take him right now. We're going to be in a spot where we get the defense eventually. It's probably fine. We're going to waiver wire that throughout the year anyway. I think defense is probably the right call here. Or sorry, Mason Taylor over the defense.
Let's see here. I mean, you want to be a homer or I don't know, the best defense?
Well, yeah, we could be a homer, but they play the Lions week 1. I don't really want to go that direction. Chiefs have a little bit of a trickier start to the season as well, too.
I mean, why take the bad matchup with the Packers?
Yeah, I think the answer is the Niners. I've had to be in this conversation before. The Niners, I think, have an easy-ish opponent in week 1. Frankly, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not up to date at my week 1 defensive plays anyway, so I think the Niners is probably the right call.
Yep, as we might have suggested, we did not get that perfect grade. We are 80% out of 100. I'll screen cap this and tweet and save this here. I'm going to see if any teams did get a perfect draft grade. Ooh, this
an F.
Yeah,
that was your other team that you were drafting, Jake. I'm kidding.
Yeah, nobody really killed it. I think the mock draft AI. Well, there's one that was also a fail. So here's the other team that was better than us. Let's do a side by side. Joe Mixon, I'm worried about.
Yep.
But Brian Thomas, Mike Evans, Pickens, Kittle. We mentioned Kittle getting sniped. I'm not fully sold on a Dunze yet. Decent. I don't know. I still like our team a little bit better. But, here we are.
Yeah, I think it's depending on Joe Mixon being able to play, and I don't think that was the conversation that most are assuming. So, yeah, I mean, there you go. There's Mock Draft Monday once again in the books. We're going to be back, and I think next week doing some auction draft strategy. We'll be able to factor that in with the systems as well, too, using the RotoWire tools. And a reminder one more time for everyone, if you are interested in playing an auction format, if you want to get a bit of a sneak preview as to what Jake and I will be doing next Monday, we have the online championship at the NFFC tomorrow night. 8 people still available, $150 entry at 9 p.m. Eastern here on RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel. We will be live streaming that, going through at least the majority of the draft. Jake normally dips out with like 30 minutes to go, as you should, because nobody should be staying up that late. But tomorrow we'll be going over that again at 9 p.m. Eastern live stream for the NFFC Online Championship. All right, that does it for us here on the Monday edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, sponsored by Circus Sports. We'll be back in next week doing some auction strategy. Thanks, everyone, for listening.